Now, and that's, we're telling kids, little children that go to church these stories and expect them to believe these grotesque things. But when you understand them, they're beautiful. Okay, so the wolf, which is a well-known figure for the clouds and blackness of night, is the dragon in another form. First he devours the grandmother, that is, he wraps the earth in thick clouds, which the evening sun is not strong enough to pierce through. Then, with the darkness of night, he swallows up the evening sun itself, and all is dark and desolate. Then, as in the German tale, the night thunder and the storm winds are represented by the loud snoring of the wolf. And then the huntsman, the morning sun, comes in all his strength and majesty and chases away the night clouds and kills the wolf, and revives old Grandmother Earth and brings Little Red Riding Hood to life again. Or another explanation may be that the wolf is the dark and dreary winter that kills the earth with frost and hides the sun with fog and mist. And then the spring comes. Anyway, whether you take the daily cycle of this as day and night or summer and winter matters not. Because this guy on my YouTube thing 3 weeks ago says, "Oh, Santos, interesting how you said that Little Red Riding Hood, the sun, turns red at sunset." Sorry, turns red at sunset. See, this is 12 midday, 12 midnight. This is sunset, 6 p.m. Turns red, Little Red Riding Hood, and there's the Virgin. And he said, "Do you know where the wolf is?" See, I never thought of this. He says, "Lupus, the constellation of Lupus. Where would it be?" Anyone got any idea?
Upper right of Scorpio.
Upper right of Scorpio. Well,
Or just outside of it.
you might be right.
I recall from one of the previous presentations.
Yeah, there's Lupus. He's in Libra. The wolf of the night. The wolf of the past. The howling wolf. Our guilt-ridden consciences. Has to do with darkness. There he is. And where would Perseus be? The slayer of Medusa, the starlit night. Perseus is the sun. And when he rises in the morning, boom, he chops off Medusa's head. And he relishes in the conquest. Well, he'd be in Aries, wouldn't he? Yeah, that's where Perseus lives, in Aries, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every morning. Perseus, the slayer of Medusa. And there is the wolf, Lupus.
All these documentaries that are coming out explaining these ancient myths and everything that you see on BBC and National and all that sort of stuff, that's just further confusing the whole story by still keeping it literal. Or putting it under myth without explaining the astrotheology side of things.
Yeah, be careful when you see people trying to explain things their way, the academic way, the way they've been drilled. It's brainwashing, mind control. The Vatican has controlled people's delusions and illusions for 2,000 years now. But the age of Pisces, which is Christianity, the fish, that's the Vesica Pisces, right? The two circles that share a common radius, and the number there is 153. 153. Remember, Jesus is about to ascend, and he's cooking some fish, and because he's just died, right? And he's on the beach, and there's his resurrected, and there's the disciples on a boat, and they haven't caught anything. So he says, "Hey, have you caught anything?" Peter says, "No." And so he says, "Well, cast your net on the other side." And they do, and all of a sudden the nets were bursting. And they counted the fish in the last chapter of the Gospel of John, and there were 153 fish. Pisces is the sign of the fish. We have been going through the sign of Pisces for 2,000 years. Now, when I bring out some books to bust the Christ historical, the literal historical Christ who was supposed to be born on the year 1 BCE, and hence we get our date 2011 from Jesus, That's a load of hogwash. It ain't pinned on a Jesus. It was Caesar Augustus, and I'm going to prove it. Caesar Augustus was the king. You look at the coins of Caesar Augustus, you see I've got pictures. They're coming. He's got a crown of thorns. He is the god. They were worshipped as gods. JC is Julius Caesar.
Is that where the law gets all of its justification
It is.
from?
It means the same thing. There's Macrobius. I'm going to show you that he's given all these names of gods. Mars, Neton, Draco, Hercules, Adonis, Attis, Jupiter, Bacchus, Janus, Helios, Osiris, Hades. They all mean the sun. It's all the sun. He said that in the 4th century. The same guy who I'm going to read, he wrote these two books, The Saturnalia and The Dream of Scipio Commentary. And I'm going to be reading this in a minute. Guess who he says on page 215 of this book? Just guess who he says was the sun? Ieus. That'd be Jesus. That'd be Jesus. And I'll show you that the calendar is pinned on the Julian calendar. The uncle and the man who adopted Octavius, who changed his name to Caesar Augustus. It's pinned on that, okay? There's no mistake about this. There's no mistake about it. The worship of Caesar Augustus, Alexander Del Mar, proves it beyond a doubt. It's all based on that. And Julius Caesar and the Flavians, the Flavian dynasty. That book explains the whole thing. There's many more. Look, I could have brought a ton of books. I had to leave many behind, but I'm going to go through these quickly to show what's in the content in there. So if you wish to, you can grab one of these books on Amazon and study the subject. It's urgent. It's really, really...
Do you have a list of all those books?
Yes, I do. At the end of my video, The Key, on YouTube, there's a list of 85 books. They are the best. I've put them there for that reason. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, I'm a slow reader. Yeah, I'm a slow reader. And, but I, sometimes have to torture myself to just read because there's great information. And I feel like Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, who was the Hermeticist in the Renaissance time, right? He was a disciple of, a follower of Marsilio Ficino, the guy who translated the Hermetica. Giovanni de' Medici gave him the job. He said, stop translating Plato, put the Hermetica on the press, on the Gutenberg press, and then the Renaissance flowered from the Hermetica. That was Marsilio Ficino, and his student, at the age of 24, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, I feel like him. He said the famous words. He said, divine providence has caused certain books to fall in my hands. He said that 500 years ago. He said that to de' Medici one day when he saw him in Rome. And those words are famous. And I feel like that. When I seriously started studying this subject only 4 years ago, this was the first book I read on the 19th of October 2007. I've been going to Jehovah's Witness meet. I was a Jehovah's Witness for 20 years and fell into, I stopped going to their meetings in 2005 and sort of hit limbo. But I did my studies, I read the Bible, and I mastered that book. I know it better than any of the theologian types out there, any of them, because I used to read it. Read that, and I opened my eyes. It talks about the Zionist Jews, the people who claim to be Jews, the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, they're Khazarians, they're not Jews, and who are running the world. They run Rome. See, people write into me saying, what about the Jews? Certainly they're evil and they're doing this and they're doing that. Well, if you understand how this bunch of criminals have hijacked the wonderful good name of the Jew, which means, well, look in Acts chapter 2, and you'll understand who Jews are. They're intellectual, wise men from every country under the sun. They're not a race. Anyway, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, at 24 years of age, he went down to Rome from Renaissance Florence, and he said, he put up all these posters around Rome saying, I will debate with any one of you buffoon apostolic senate of cardinals. I'll debate with you and show you that everything is syncretic. And that's what I'm doing. I'm here to follow this guy's work, and Giordano Bruno, who was murdered by Rome in 1600. Those two I'm modelling. He went down to Rome with 900 theses, 30 years before Martin Luther and his 30 bullshit version. This was the real version, because he was trying to syncretise, not divide even further, like Martin Luther did and brought on a 30-year war and slaughtered and butchered and Calvin and all those buffoons and the people who follow them. They're just a bunch of murderers. That's all they are. And if you ever want to read the best book on philosophy, that's Pico della Mirandola's little book on philosophy, saying only science and philosophy will save mankind. And guess who else says that? The genius, Walter Russell. At the end of his book, after proving that the whole world is electric, and none of this other, well, you heard that list of all those subatomic particles.
Does he predate Tesla?
No, he's a contemporary.
Oh, Tesla.
Yes. Okay. At the end of his book, he says, knowledge alone will lead man to that supreme discovery. It is the office and responsibility of science to illumine the way for all men who are seeking the kingdom of heaven. It's not the churches. Science is their enemy. Now, here's an amazing fact about the Bible, guys. This will blow your mind. This date here is equivalent to Nisan 14 of the Jews. It's the Passover, because the sun gets killed on the 21st of December. Finally it climbs up out of the winter, the Red Sea. This is red for a reason, and this is green, the lush photosynthesis. And you see how it corresponds with the torso of the human being with all its chakras. And notice the red here, where Little Red Riding Hood, the Red Sea, because the green leaves of the tree begin to turn red here in September in the Northern Hemisphere. So the sun is, so they look at the red tree and they go, the red leaves, and they say, oh yeah, well, the sun's now passing through the Red Sea. And see the chakras, the bottom chakra, it's the red one. The violet one's up here, the crown chakra. Let's have a look at some images, shall we? There's the name of the sun, I-E-S in Greek. I-E-S, the yes. I've shown that in other videos, okay? I've shown that. There's the Korean flag. Bit of science there, isn't it? Spirit and matter. Fire for red, water for matter. Earth, air, fire and water. That's the Korean flag, South Korean flag. That corresponds with the sine wave, because it goes around into itself. Red and blue. Spirit, summer, and matter, winter. Good and evil. Why would these people be wearing these solar symbols? That's the crown chakra. The crown chakra is, these people are kings, they are Christs. Horus is Christ. See the serpent? The Uraeus and the eagle at the top of the Tutankhamun's mask there? When you bring that Kundalini serpent up and you drive it up and you get all your chakras flying and spinning in your Merkaba wheel, your light body, then you get a flying out of here. There's the chakras, guys. The bottom chakra has 4 petals, 6 petals, 10, heart chakra, 12, 16, 96. Any mathematicians around? How much does that add up to? 144. Multiplied by the 1,000-leafed clover of the crown chakra, that's 144,000. You know the song, I let the saints, when the saints go marching in, oh Lord, I want to be in that number. The number is the 144,000. If you want to be one of the 144,000, you have to work on your chakras. That's the seal on the forehead. That's in the forehead. That they were sealed. It says in Revelation chapter, I think it's chapter 12.